Hello and welcome to our video on optimizing Angular's ngFor directive with trackBy. We're starting with our Angular component where we've defined a trackBy function named trackByItemId. It takes two arguments, index, which is the position of the item in the iterable, and item, which is the actual data bound to the current item. Inside the function, we simply return the unique identifier of each item, termed id in this case. This unique id is critical as it helps Angular to identify the individual list items during the rendering process. Now let's move over to the Angular template. Here we have an unordered list with a list item tag inside. We're using the ngFor directive to iterate over a list of items, an array of objects we have in our component. Notice something additional here. We've added trackByItemId to our ngFor. This tells Angular to use our trackByItemId function to keep track of each item's identity. This way, when the list of items changes, Angular won't have to re-render the entire DOM list. Instead, it will only make necessary changes to items that have actually changed, thus reducing the performance costs significantly. Let's take a look at an example items array that our ngFor might be iterating over. The array consists of objects with two properties, id and name. Id is a unique identifier for each object, which is exactly what our trackByItemId function is returning. When you use trackBy, and let's say item 2 gets updated, Angular knows it doesn't need to touch item 1 since the id hasn't changed, which keeps your app running snappily. Imagine our items array is updated like so, with the names of the items being changed but the ids remaining the same. Thanks to trackBy, Angular detects that the objects are still the same since their ids are unchanged. This means Angular will update only the text content of the list items, without unnecessarily recreating the DOM elements. This can lead to dramatic performance improvements, especially for large lists or lists with complex DOM structures. In a real-world scenario, you might fetch items from an API during the component's initialization. In the ngOnInit lifecycle hook, we're calling a method named fetchItems, which simulates fetching data from a backend. If the fetched items are the same or have some objects with the same id, our trackBy function ensures Angular only manipulates the DOM where actual data changes occurred, rather than the entire array of items. To illustrate the difference, this is what our ngFor would look like without trackBy. Without specifying a trackBy function, Angular has no way to know how to identify items uniquely. Therefore, it would default to re-rendering all DOM elements within the list whenever any modification to the list is detected. This is less efficient and can lead to performance issues with large or frequently updated lists. As you can see, trackBy is a simple but powerful way to optimize performance, and it's highly recommended when working with lists in Angular.